For a long time, I've been bothered by conspiracy theories, but I haven't really given them a lot of thought because they seem silly or they seem not worth the time to think about. And yet, I have felt disturbed by them. And as I often do when I want to know something, I find books on it. And I just found three really good books on conspiracy theories and started reading one of them. And already I'm fascinated. I have never really thought about how much impact they have on real events in the real world, and how much, like the 2016 election, for example, conspiracy theories played a big part in how that election turned out and how people campaigned in the election. Conspiracy theories also affect what people do medically, what they will be willing to do for treatment of serious diseases and stuff like that. I mean, these political events in the world and real events in the world are being affected strongly by conspiracy theories. One of the things I just was reading about was two articles in the New York Times one was about how Facebook, Google, and Twitter are fighting to prevent China and Russia from interfering with our elections. Specifically, what China and Russia are doing is injecting conspiracy theories into our conversation here in the United States in order to cause confusion and division. They're using conspiracy theories as one of their main weapons. The book I'm reading, by the way, is called Conspiracy Theories and the People Who Believe Them. It's a collection of articles by different authors, all of whom are experts in some way or another on conspiracy theories. It has been fascinating from the very first chapter. I'm just going to read you this one part. So they were talking about that during when Hillary Clinton was running against Trump, there were all these conspiracy theories about how Clinton was not doing well. Her health wasn't doing well. The accusations put Clinton on the defensive and led her to hide whatever normal health problems a presidential candidate might face. During a 9/11 memorial, for example, she fainted due to dehydration, heat exposure, and pneumonia. Rather than skip the event, the conspiracy theories led her to conceal her illness and attend an outdoor memorial in the heat. But, given an inch, conspiracy theories took it a mile. Once her illness was exposed, further conspiracy theories claimed she was on the verge of death, had a body double, or was already dead. Conspiracy theorists charged that the Clinton who emerged from care had a smaller hip size and different fitting pantsuit and was therefore a doppelganger. To address the rumors, Clinton booked an appearance on the late-night Jimmy Kimmel show, where she opened a pickle jar as a testament to her vigor. The next day, conspiracy theorists contended that the pickle jar was already open. Clinton had to continually respond to the conspiracy theories, sometimes in ways that seemed as if she herself were conspiring. Conspiracy theories are not just for the United States, obviously, they are all over. This book goes into all kinds of details about conspiracy theories in Russia and Germany, France, everywhere. And one of them was in Africa, South Africa. The former health minister of South Africa thought that the pharmaceuticals people used that they got from Western countries to help people with AIDS was really a way of reducing the African population, and so he really discouraged it for people to use that. And they think that probably about 300,000 people died because of that. So conspiracy theories definitely have consequences. One of the conspiracy theories they talk about in this book is that people think that fluoride in water is being used for nefarious purposes, and some cities have been successfully able to stop fluoride from being added to the water, even though scientists and dentists are saying that's not a good idea. And of course, when they do it, there was one, I think it was a city in Canada where they successfully banned putting fluoride in the water. And then, of course, tooth decay went up. And I thought this was an interesting quote from the book. Quote, going back to 1956, observers noted that science and experts were often powerless in the hands of conspiracy theories. Unquote. They're so powerful that they can overrule even good science. One of the comments in the book I thought was interesting is that conspiracy theories allow people to become uncertain. And when people are uncertain, they tend to vote for the status quo, whatever it already is. And I thought that must be the purpose that China and Russia have for creating conspiracy theories and promoting them in the United States, is to make people unable to do something. If you're uncertain enough, you don't act, right? And there's a really good documentary on this topic that what's it called? Merchants of Doubt. It's basically about how the cigarette industry or the tobacco industry back in the day used doubt to keep people from voting against tobacco. What they did is created doubt in people's minds about how dangerous cigarettes were. So that, there was growing scientific evidence that cigarette smoking is bad for your health. And they successfully did a campaign to create doubt in people's minds about whether cigarette smoking was really bad for your health. And they were able to keep selling cigarettes at the rate and advertising it at the rate that they were doing for another, 50 years before anything legally was done. That's how successful it is to create doubt in people's minds. They don't act. If they were 100% certain about it, they would act. But if there's a doubt, they hesitate to act, especially to act in the ways of setting laws and stuff like that, changing laws. If there's a doubt, you don't want to change the laws. And the same people are using the same techniques and sometimes the same personnel to do that. The oil industry is using them to make people doubt about climate change. And it's very clever. It's fascinating just to see how they do it. I highly recommend that documentary. Everybody should see it, because it's kind of like, this is what's going on behind the scenes that give you the impressions and change policies and stuff. And you don't see what they're doing. They're so clever about it. Anyway, that may be why China and Russia would use such things as conspiracy theories to cause people to doubt and therefore to hesitate and not act. I just watched a YouTube video by the Huffington Post called "Why Are Conspiracy Theories So Popular?" And there was a couple of professors on there that pointed out that people who are conspiracy theorists tend not to vote because they think the system is rigged, or at least they're less likely to vote than people who don't think it's rigged. One of the things that researchers have found is that people that believe in conspiracy theories tend to be people that feel powerless. And conspiracy theories somehow help that. I still haven't figured out how that helps, but I thought it was odd that they feel powerless, and so they have these conspiracy theories that make them think the system is rigged, and so they don't vote, which takes away some of the power they actually have. So it's almost like their belief in their own powerlessness is a self-fulfilling prophecy in that sense. I just got done watching the movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts. And it depicted one thing that was correct, is that sometimes conspiracy theories turn out to be true, which is a good thing to remember. Certainly not all of them, not even most of them, but every once in a while, one of them is true. But one of the things that it depicted in the movie is that Mel Gibson was kind of a mess psychologically, and that is not true, or at least let me put it this way: a lot of people that believe in conspiracy theories are not crazy. Of course, there are crazy people that do too, but not everybody does. And as a matter of fact, half the country believes in at least one conspiracy theory. So well, that's a good thing to keep in mind, that there are many psychological reasons to believe in a conspiracy theory, and it doesn't require someone to be crazy to believe in one. Something I haven't read anybody talking about yet regarding conspiracy theories is that the human brain is extremely good at seeing patterns, often where there isn't really a pattern. Like, most people have a more difficult time, or they're more likely to see a pattern in random coin flips than there actually is, because they don't understand the statistical likelihood of something happening, of a random 50-50 chance happening, when you have a pretty good chance of getting 4 in a row. And most people don't expect that, and so they're just, their brains don't work that way. And besides that, human brains are really good at seeing a pattern with only minimal clues. It's one of the reasons that we can recognize faces so well and so easily. I mean, we could see a face that we know and see only, have it lit only from the side, so you're only seeing part of the face, and instantly recognize who it is. Our brains are really good at seeing, at taking minimal clues and seeing and like completing the picture. For example, looking up into the stars and seeing constellations, seeing, Orion's belt and so on. We see horses in the clouds. Hell, some people see Jesus in a piece of toast, just from the pattern of the burn on the toast. Our brains are just really good at seeing patterns and hearing patterns as well. There's a thing called pareidolia. Some people are actually better at this than others, where they hear in random sound, they can put together something that it's saying. For example, I just saw there's a YouTube video, I think it's a TED Talk, and the guy that's talking is Michael Shermer. Yeah. And he just talks about, he talks about how people can see patterns that aren't there, or hear patterns that aren't there. And he plays a record of Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven backwards. And he said, just tell me, audience, what do you hear? And you hear this, weird sound. And every once in a while, I heard something that said Satan. And when he stopped it, he asked everybody, what'd you hear? And a bunch of people yelled out, Satan. Okay, he goes, now here's what you're supposed to hear. And apparently somebody with pareidolia, or somebody that's really good at kind of putting together random sounds into something that sounds like something, wrote out the words and included the word Satan, but there was a whole thing. And he played it backwards again, and you could get that. You could go, oh, okay, I could get how somebody could hear that, or it sounded enough like it that you're kind of like, oh, okay, I get that. Well, the brain is just really good at that. And some people are even better at that than others. Now, I haven't seen anything about conspiracy theories that indicates that people that see conspiracies in things are better at that than others, but I would bet that if somebody studied it, they would find people with pareidolia, or with whatever the corresponding thing is for visual pattern recognition. But people are better at, if you had two people sitting on the ground looking up at or lying on the grass looking up at the clouds, probably of the two, one of them would be better at seeing patterns in the clouds. Oh, look, that looks like a bunny rabbit. Oh, that looks like, I'll bet you there's a corresponding skill visually that there is with, auditorily, that's some people better able to put together patterns. And I imagine that's got to be one of the skills that a conspiracy theorist would have to have, is you take this clue and you take this clue and you go, what that adds up to? A conspiracy. Of course, to be fair, you'd have to say that would also be a characteristic or a character trait that a good detective would have, or a good journalist would have, to be able to take minimal clues and start putting things together. I have the feeling that this is going to be a very controversial podcast, because a lot of people are kind of believers in conspiracy theories. A lot of people. And it's almost like a religion. And it is a kind of other form of information. It's like an alternate explanation for events that happen, alternate to the conventional one or the widely accepted one. So it's kind of like another form of information or another channel of information. And some people are very, very skeptical of anything sort of mainstream or official and or authoritative in the conventional sense, and really kind of gullible about if it's got a conspiracy theory involved. It's almost like people have taken that whole question authority to the other end, the other extreme. Not everybody, obviously. There are people that believe in conspiracy theories that are not on the extreme end. But I think the reason that I've even got interested in it, as I've seen so many conspiracy theories that are just seem like complete nonsense to me, and yet people are putting them forth like they're have some legitimacy. And it's really hard to argue with people that think that way. Like anything you say, it's almost like they have a built-in immune system, mental immune system for any skepticism toward that theory. Is, well, of course that's what they would say. You know what I mean? Like there's a kind of there's like whatever you put forth that is kind of legitimate, authoritative, or conventional as information, they're saying, well, they're in on it. It's really difficult to penetrate that kind of thinking. I just read an article by my brother, Mike Elgin, who writes about tech stuff. It was a really good example of this. So apparently Russia really wants to make 5G networks widespread in their country because they think it'll give them an advantage over Western countries. And they are actively spreading conspiracy theories in English in Western countries to try to discourage 5G in Western countries, trying to get the people to resist it. So one of the conspiracy theories they have is that the coronavirus is a cover because people are being affected by these 5G networks that are being put up, and so they release this virus in order to cover it up. So that's one of the one of the conspiracy theories. And there was another one that it would spread coronavirus. The waves, quote unquote, of the 5G networks would help spread the coronavirus. And they had other ones like it causes autism and brain cancer and stuff like that. Anyway, they're busy disseminating all this stuff into the West to try to get the general public to resist 5G networks. And it's somewhat effective. One of the articles that my brother was writing was about how in the UK, some people were burning these 5G network towers because they were afraid of what these waves are doing to them. This is interesting. This is in the book I'm reading, Conspiracy Theories and the People Who Believe Them. What they've found is that people who believe in conspiracy theories don't actually often believe in any particular conspiracy theory. What they actually believe in is that official sources, authoritative sources, conventional mainstream sources of information are often wrong and misleading. So they promote conspiracy theories as an alternative form of information that basically questions authority. So they use conspiracy theories to question authority. That's what they're doing. Not so much that they really believe this particular conspiracy theory that they're putting forth. Their belief level on those if you have a gradient scale of confidence in your belief, that for most of the conspiracy theories that they're putting forth, their confidence is relatively low. But they do strongly believe that authoritative sources are often wrong, or sometimes at least wrong. Basically, they believe that we should not just blindly believe mainstream sources of information because those sources have proven to be wrong. Even scientists putting forth their findings and stuff like that. And it is true that often a scientific finding is superseded by another scientific finding that either makes the previous one incorrect or puts it in a smaller context or does something that kind of makes it that it wasn't actually those people that put forth that idea before with so much confidence were not actually correct. And that's true all over the board. Journalists and scientists and politicians and mainstream media and so on, they've all proven to be wrong at one time or another. And so the commitment to conspiracy theories is really a commitment to questioning authority. I was just reading a story about a study done in Italy. They were trying to figure out why so many people believe false things about real events. And so they studied the way people interacted with news on Facebook and how long they interacted with it and how much they interacted with it, and then tried to figure out what kind of people, is there anything different between the people that use alternative news sources and people that use conventional news sources or mainstream news sources. And they found that people that used alternative media had a tendency to have a higher distrust of mainstream media, of course. But they said the problem was that they tend to be more exploitable. So they're looking at alternative news sources, which tend to be more likely to be, at least, unsubstantiated pieces of information. So people who distrusted the mainstream news were more likely to expose themselves to unsubstantiated claims and false information, and sometimes deliberately created false information. People are just basically trying to find news sources they can trust, and it's very, very difficult. The mainstream news sources obviously are sometimes compromised, although probably largely trustable. At least many of them have good reputations for trustworthiness, and then sometimes news stories are broken by more fringe or alternative news sources, but the price you pay is you're more likely to be exposed to fake news stories and unsubstantiated claims and so on. This whole topic of conspiracy theories has really opened my eyes to more. It's more complex of an issue than I thought it would be, and hopefully I'll be doing more podcasts on this because there's definitely more to learn about it. But what I've gotten so far is that people who share and promote conspiracy theories are trying to undermine everybody else's trust in mainstream news and authoritative sources. They distrust authority. They are busy questioning authority, and they want other people to question authority. So they're promoting these views that make people question their trust in mainstream sources. That's what I've gotten so far, but I'm sure there's more to come. Stay tuned. This is Adam Lee Kahn on The Atom Bomb.